The safest thing Joseph ever did was run away without looking back. He did not try to win the argument in his head first, he removed himself from the room before the argument could even start. Genesis 39 verse 12 records the exact moment he chose his feet over his reasoning. You have been trying to win temptation in your mind, believing that if you think clearly enough, pray hard enough, or reason well enough in the moment, you will talk yourself out of it before it happens. Joseph never ran that experiment, and scripture never records him relying on it either. He was alone in a house with no witnesses, no accountability, and no consequence waiting for him if he said yes to what was being offered. And his final strategy, when the moment actually escalated, was not a mental one at all. Many of you will push back on this. Good. Because this is the part of Joseph's story most men skip entirely when they tell it as a simple lesson in willpower and discipline. Part 1. The setting removed every external reason to resist. Genesis 39 verses 6 to 7. Joseph was well built and handsome, and after a while his master's wife took notice of Joseph and said, "Come to bed with me." There was no crowd present in that moment. No servant standing nearby to witness what was being asked of him. No cultural shame waiting to expose him publicly if he gave in. Potiphar's house was his entire world at that point in his life. He had no family present, no elders watching over him, no community that would ever hear about a single decision made behind those closed walls. But here is what nobody told you. The Hebrew structure of her request in verse 7 is direct and repeated in form, not a single invitation, but the grammatical shape of an ongoing proposition. This was not one moment of weakness he had to survive once and never think about again. It was a sustained campaign against a man with nowhere else to go and no one else to answer to inside that house, day after day, without relief. Part 2. Joseph's refusal was verbal before it ever became physical. Genesis 39 verses 8 to 9. But he refused. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? Notice what Joseph does not say in his refusal. He does not say this would hurt Potiphar, though it clearly would betray a man who trusted him with everything. He does not say this would ruin his reputation, though it certainly might if it ever became known. He frames the sin as being against God specifically, in a house where God was the only witness left who mattered to his decision at all. Think about that for a second. Every argument culture makes for resisting temptation is built on the fear of getting caught. Reputation. Consequence. Shame in front of others who would find out. Joseph had already removed every one of those from the equation before he even answered her, and his resistance held anyway, because he was accounting for an audience nobody else in that house could see or verify. Part 3. She did not ask once. She asked continuously, and he answered continuously. Genesis 39 verse 10. And though she spoke to Joseph day after day, he refused to go to bed with her or even be with her. This was not a single test he passed once and then moved on from without giving it another thought. This was daily, repeated pressure that required daily, repeated refusal from the same man in the same house with no change in circumstance. Willpower exercised once is not the same thing as willpower exercised as a discipline, practiced under fatigue, under routine, under the exhausting sameness of facing an identical temptation every single day inside the same walls. Now stop. Many of you will push back on this. Good. Because modern access to temptation looks nothing like Joseph's, it does not ask once a day through another human being standing in front of you. It is available at every hour, through a screen already in your hand, requiring no house, no proximity, no repeated verbal request from another person at all. The barrier to entry Joseph faced was another human being asking him directly, day after day, to his face. Yours may require nothing but your own boredom and a few unguarded seconds of inattention late at night. Part 4. When talking was no longer enough, he ran. Genesis 39 verses 11 to 12. One day he went into the house to attend to his duties, and none of the household servants was inside. She caught him by his cloak and said, "Come to bed with me." He left his cloak in her hand and ran out of the house. Joseph did not stay to reason further. He did not attempt one more verbal refusal. When the physical moment arrived, he abandoned his own garment rather than remain in the room 1 second longer than necessary. Let that land. Joseph's strategy shifted the instant proximity increased. Verbal refusal worked as a daily discipline against a repeated request. It stopped being sufficient the moment he was physically grabbed and the distance between refusal and consequence collapsed to nothing. He did not upgrade his argument, search for a better reason, or try once more to reason his way out of the room. He changed his location, immediately, at the cost of his own clothing left behind as evidence against him. Part 5. The moral cost he accepted by fleeing. Genesis 39 verses 13 to 18. When she saw he had left his cloak in her hand and had run out of the house, she called her household servants and accused Joseph of trying to make sport of her. Tell me honestly in the comments. Was running away, at the cost of looking guilty and losing everything that followed, still the right call to make in that instant? Joseph's flight left physical evidence in her hand that would be used against him within minutes of his decision. He chose an accusation he could not immediately disprove over a sin he refused to commit, with no way of knowing how the story would end for him. Part 6. Prison did not undo the decision. It confirmed what the decision had already cost him. Genesis 39 verses 19 to 20. When his master heard his wife's story, he burned with anger, and Joseph was put in prison. The very obedience that kept him faithful to God became the direct cause of his imprisonment. Scripture does not soften this into a story where doing right produced an immediate reward or vindication. Joseph ran, told the truth with his feet instead of a long explanation, and was punished for it anyway. Long before any promotion, any dream interpretation, any rise to power ever entered the picture. You have been treating willpower as something you either have enough of or do not, a fixed resource you either win or lose with in the exact moment temptation actually arrives. Joseph's example says otherwise entirely. He trained it daily through repeated, unseen refusal long before he ever needed it for the single moment that required physical flight instead of words. The strength to run when reasoning finally runs out is not built in that moment. It is built in the smaller, repeated refusals nobody sees, day after day, in a house where no one else was watching him make the choice. If you want to see what it looks like when someone treats present resources with total urgency instead of comfort, watch the video on screen now. A dishonest manager understood exactly how little time he had left, and it changed everything about how he spent it before that time ran out completely. Type in the comments which temptation you are fighting the hardest right now, and choose today to run before you try to reason your way through it.